Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Mannado Sri Jagannada Madguru Sri Jagadguru Mamatma Sarvabhutatma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. The only Guru of three religions, the Traita Theorem originator, sensational writer, author of more than 100 divine holy scriptures, Hindu virtue donor, Sri 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 Acharya Prabodhananda Yogeshwar. We are learning the Gita Parichayam, the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. So as part of that, learning many things about the Bhagavad Gita and its greatness, and about the Bhagavan also last time. So we could know that Bhagavan means he is the one, he himself comes out, he himself takes avatar, and he doesn't even for his birth it doesn't even require any sperm even. So since he is omnipresent, he is everywhere, he is present everywhere. The Paramatma, the absolute soul, is present everywhere in each and every particle, molecule, atom, electron, anything. So he is spread everywhere. So he is spread also inside the mother's womb. So he creates his body himself in the mother's womb. For his body, to create his body, there is no need of others intervention. So that's why he is also called Kuda means he himself takes birth. So that's how the Bhagavan comes alive from the mother's womb. But we are not going to do that. So since we depend on the karma plays us, that's why we are completely dependable. The God is independent. So he, when he comes as a human being and takes birth on the earth, he is called Bhagavan. The Lord Krishna is the one who is Bhagavan, and whatever the teachings he gave, that is called Bhagavad Gita. When Bhagavan gives the teachings, that is called Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavan, what he said in Bhagavad Gita is, whenever there is a defection to righteousness, or when they vanishes on the earth, that means nobody is learning the dharmas or righteousness, then he takes the human form and he teaches the dharmas. That means he establishes the dharmas again. So according to that statement given by God, given by Bhagavan, so when he took birth in Dwapara Yugam, when he took birth in Dwapara Yugam, that means there should be some defect. There should be some defect for dharmas. That means dharmas might have been endangered then itself. So when we give the statement, some people may think that they may get doubt that in Dwapara, at the end of the Dwapara Yugam, there were so many great people like Bhishma, Vyasa. So during that time, did dharmas got defection? Some people may think like that. We need to give the answer for this. The answer is, during that time, people used to do penances so much, yagnas, that means sacrifices so much, and worshippings, pujas, so many things. But they didn't know what is righteousness that time. People used to have devotion on the demigods so much, but they didn't have any internal spiritual knowledge. So there were so many rishis, saints, so many saints were there that time, but their focus was more on the demigods only, and they tried to achieve something uh, with respect to their self welfare, or they would have some desire to fulfill their desire. They practiced penances, but they did not know unification or yogam. They might be so much great rishis or saints, but they know only doing the tasks related to getting the merits or punyam. They never performed the task related to the getting sin or sinful deeds. So during that time, people know the ethics, but they don't know the divine wisdom. They did not know any divine wisdom, and they know justice, but they did not know righteousness. Because of that, Bhagavan came. Bhagavan took the birth. So that Bhagavan, whatever he taught, is the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita was taught by Lord Krishna, Bhagavan. But the human being whose eyes covered with ignorance could not able to see the Bhagavad Gita, which is the very, very important spiritual knowledge. And the human being could not able to identify the true dharma taught by Bhagavan. But there are some gurus who started telling about the spiritual wisdom. But what happened? The Maya, or Satan, what it did? So it's there inside their heads, because Bhagavan said that. So Maya was created by the God himself. So that Maya is in the form of emotions. It's inside everyone's head. So the Maya deviated the people, so that thinking that human beings, this might be the true spiritual knowledge, but in reality it would not be true spiritual knowledge, since Maya deviates them from the right spiritual knowledge. So what Maya does? Maya deviates the gurus, so that the followers in thousands and millions, they also deviate from the true path of the God, because Maya does opposite tasks to the Paramatma, because both are playing a game. We are the pawns, whatever the game they are playing, and God gave the interest, the super weapon to the every creature, every mortal soul. That super weapon is interest. So based on that, wherever you put your focus, so that you are going to get. If your focus is on God, you are going to get the spiritual knowledge, and you are going to destroy karma and merge with the God. If your focus is on the worldly related matters, then you would be getting worldly related things and earning the karma, and again taking the birth. So since the human being is not having the interest on the God, when they think about the God, Maya will create some gurus, and it will stay inside that gurus, and it will make the gurus teach the spiritual knowledge, but it's not exactly spiritual knowledge. And the human beings who are not interested on real God, so they will easily get deviated from the original path of the God, and they will follow the guru selected by the Maya, and they will follow the deviated path, not the exact God's path. So so the people who knew the spirituality, they also deviated so much, and the Maya made them to made them to get mistaken at the righteousness or dharmas. So Maya is such a great what we can say powerful entity, so that can easily deviate the anyone who is trying to go towards the God. Because if God does not accept, Maya does not allow that person to go walk towards the God. That's why Vemana Yogi poem is there. Patiyoppina Satiyoppunu. That means if husband accepts, then only a wife accepts. The husband Paramatma, wife Maya or Prakriti. We can say when Paramatma accepts, then Prakriti or Maya is going to accept. That's why. So God said that Daivi Hiesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. That means Maya was established by the God himself. Maya is in the form of emotions. So it's very hard and difficult to cross over the Maya. But those whoever surrenders me, they can easily cross the Maya. So cross over the Maya. That's what God said. So when there is no acceptance from the God for a particular human being, then Maya never let that human being go towards the God. So he will go into the deviated path. So that's why if we see some of the examples how the Maya deviated the people and what they thought about the real wisdom. So there is an example. One Swami comes to a meeting where a movie got super hit 100 days. So that celebration was happening. Then that Swami came to that meeting and he gave a lecture over there. In that lecture he told that this cinema director became a great yogi and he did penance. Uh, he directed a great movie, so that's why the greatness of this cinema director he told. So what cinema director did, he did hard work basically, but this Swami compared that one with a penance. And not only that, he said this cinema director as a yogi. So according to that speech what Swami gave, so in that speech we can come to know that yogi and tapasvi both are same. The one who performs penance and one who tries to one who gets unification with God, that is yogam. So the one who tries to do that is called yogi, but and the tapasvi, that means who is performing the penance. So both are same according to the statement given by the Swami. And also that is the one incident. Another incident is some group of people invited a Swamiji to their town to let the people know in advance about that Swami is coming to the town. What they did, so they printed some some pamphlets and put the information about who is coming over there, and there they printed some of the sentences. If you, what are those sentences is, they wrote like 12 years he not that, so Sri 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 Balabharati Yogi Garu, he performed penance in the graveyard for 12 years and he converted he became yogi and he is coming to our town. So all the devotees come and visit the Swami. That's what the statement they wrote in the printed pamphlet. So what they said in this statement, they said in the statement that whoever performed the 12 years penance in the graveyard, so he was called as yogi. So clearly they said the one who performed penance became yogi here. The people who printed this matter are called great philosophers, even though he could not identify the difference between penance and the yogam or unification. So when you call the yogam and penance both are same, then whatever the Bhagavan said, the righteousness or dharmas in the Bhagavad Gita, it's totally a defection to, or it's like a endangering the wisdom there itself. Because God said that whenever there is a defection to dharmas, He is going to come onto the earth and re-establish dharmas. So that God Himself, He taught that tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi in one of the slokas. That means the yogi is greater than the tapasvi. That means the one who performs the penance. So here the mistake is people could not identify the greatness of yogam, and still they are thinking that yogam and the penance both are same. So if you say like that, it's talking against the dharma taught by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So we all will become like endangering the dharma taught in the Bhagavad Gita. So it makes sure that so we are making the statements useless which are taught by the Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So that way there are some small bits and pieces of the divine wisdom that even was not captured or grasped by the big swamis and so-called gurus. It surprises so much. There are so many people in the society, like 90% of the people, they don't know the difference between penance and the yogam. So this much more surprising thing. And in so many mythologies also, they told in many places that penance and the yogam both are same itself. So in one of the mythology book, they wrote in such a way that a maharshi who was performing penance in the forest, so the Indra appeared in front of him, appreciating his yogam. Appreciating his yogam, determined yogam, we can say determined yogam. Now, in the similar way, when a king was performing yogam, the demigod Brahma appeared in front of him and he appreciated his penance and he gave boons to him. So that's what they wrote in the mythology book. So if you go into Bhagavad Gita Atma Samyama Yogam chapter 46th sloka, it says tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi. So when Bhagavan said like this, so whatever the writings made in the mythologies and the people whatever they could not able to figure it out, the difference between yogam and penance, they are all against the teachings of the God. So Maya can make the Gnanis to go against the God. So what we have to do, we must make a basis as the science as the basis to understand the true divine knowledge. If not that, then we also go into the deviated path. So there are so many people who got much more name and fame nowadays. uh, so there are so many gurus in nowadays. So the Maya, what it did with the great Jagat Gurus, so-called Jagat Gurus. So Maya did some work, and it deviated those Jagat Gurus, and Maya left the people who are teaching the mythologies and itihasas, or what we call, they are histories, epics, mythologies, whoever are teaching. Maya did not care them, because they are already teaching the Maya only. And Maya caught these Jagat Gurus, and it worked on them, so that so that it deviated them from the real wisdom. For example, there were two great Siddhanta Kartas, we can say, who initiated, who originated the doctrines. They are called Advaita doctrine and the Dvaita doctrine. Both doctrines are there. So the Pitadipatis, who are called high command of that Pitas, are the original place, we can say, original place of the doctrine. They are called gurus nowadays. But then when they originated the doctrines, what happened? First, Advaita doctrine came into existence, and Advaita doctrine was originated by Adi Shankaracharya. So after some time, some people got some differences, and then Dvaita doctrine came into picture. So Dvaita doctrine was originated by Madhvacharya, and they fought each other, thinking that your doctrine is not true, your doctrine is not true. Like that, they fought each other, because the Maya did some tasks, and Maya made them to do like that. If you think about a doctrine, the doctrine should be in such a way that it should never change, and also it should be always truth. Here the doctrine, what it makes at the end, it gives the result, and the results which comes to our experience, that is called doctrine. So whoever reveals about the matters of the doctrine is called Siddhanti, and the science which contains so many inscriptions inside that is called Shastram or science. If you see the inscription and the doctrine, both are the same. So in the olden days, people used to say Shastri means who knows the science, and they used to say Siddhanti, who reveals the Siddhantas or doctrines. So if there are some small of the inscriptions, that group we can that thing is called doctrine. The doctrine contains inscriptions. So without inscriptions, there is no doctrine at all. So according to that, the great education is the big education, which is the Brahma Vidya. So whichever is called spiritual education, so that should be always with the which should be bound with the science, and also it should be like a doctrine. So there were so many differences between Advaitam and Dvaitam doctrines. So in order to identify which one is the correct, or whether both are correct or both are wrong, we should refer the Bhagavad Gita. So we have to take Bhagavad Gita as the standard. So then only we can identify whether this theorem or doctrine is correct or not. So Bhagavad Gita, which is the 100% Brahma Vidya or big education, it contains the scientifically bounded doctrines in it, and also the teachings made by Bhagavan himself in Bhagavad Gita. So according to the Bhagavad Gita, according to the Bhagavad Gita, when we take the Bhagavad Gita and when we compare the Bhagavad Gita, what it says, and the what Advaitam says, so Advaitam says that there is only absolute soul. There is no mortal soul and immortal soul. The Advaitam says. And the Dvaitam, what it says there is mortal soul, there is absolute soul, but there is no immortal soul. So when we look into the Bhagavad Gita and identify these doctrines, then we can come to know that the human beings who are called gurus, they taught these doctrines or theorems. They are not rational at all. They are not rational at all, and they are not complete doctrines at all. So when we go in depth, what Dvaita Siddhantam says, Dvaita doctrine says, so on the earth there are no roots, but tree is there. So that's what Advaita Siddhantam says. But Advaita Siddhantam, Advaita doctrine, what it says, so there is a tree without having any roots and base. The base is earth, we can say. So Dvaita Siddhantam says, on the earth there is a tree without roots. So it means that both the doctrines are unscientific and they are not rational. So these two doctrines are cancelled by the two slokas in Bhagavad Gita, Purushottam Prapti Yogam chapter. So according to that sloka, that's two slokas, so these two doctrines, Dvaitam and Advaitam, both are cancelled. For entire spirituality and for the entire Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, 16th and 17th slokas in Purushottama Prapti Yogam chapter, they are teaching about the Traita doctrine. Traita means three souls. And not only these two slokas, whole Bhagavad Gita itself based on the Traita itself. And the Dvaita, Advaita doctrines originated in Kali Yugam, but the Traita doctrine was taught by Lord Krishna in the end of the Dwapara Yugam. Even though Maya, because of the Maya, what it did, so it made the people not to understand the Traitam, and it made the Advaitam very popular. So there are so many Pitas available for Madhvacharya and Shankaracharya. That means Dvaitam and Advaitam both. There were no people. There are no people teaching the Traitam at all. So in this time, it's our luck to have the Traitam in front of us to learn Bhagavad Gita according to the Traitam. So the Bhagavad Gita is according to Traitam, and Traitam is according to the Bhagavad Gita itself. So let us know more about the Traita Siddhantam, how it explains truly. We know that Advaitam is Advaitam. What it says? So there is a tree without earth or roots. Dvaitam, what it says? There is a tree and the root and the earth, but there are no roots. So the roots are the main ingredients, we can say. It is the main supplier between the earth and the tree, we can say. It is the connecting between the earth and the tree. So it's much more significant one. The roots are much more significant one. Without the roots, there are no ingredients going into the tree, and tree is growing. And the roots which get the which get all the food from the earth. So it's so then it will create the food, and the roots will supply all the ingredients and food to the tree itself. So in the same way, when we think about that, in our body there are three souls. So and the immortal soul is spread all over our body. Mortal soul is staying at only one place in the head portion, and the absolute soul is spread inside the body and outside, everywhere it is present. So in order to live, there should be a soul which will be providing food and everything to the mortal soul, we can say, to the human being. So without immortal soul there is no immortal soul. Without immortal soul there is no mortal soul. So if there is no roots, if there are no roots, no tree. If there is no tree, there are no roots. So without trees and roots, earth will be there. That means Paramatma will be there. So without even Jivatma and Atma, that means mortal soul and immortal soul. So in order to lead the life by the mortal soul, immortal soul's support is must. So so in the world also, if there is no absolute soul, immortal soul and mortal soul, there is no spirituality at all. So so by explaining this matter in Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Prapti Yogam chapter 16 and 17th sloka, Bhagavan said about the Jivatma, Atma, Paramatma. That means mortal soul, immortal soul and the absolute soul. And the mortal soul and immortal soul both are embodied inside the body, and the absolute soul is spread inside the body and also the outside the body. So he is called Uttama Purusha. He is called Uttama Purusha. Not only telling this matter in the form of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan and God, what he said, what he did to make the human being to remember the three souls easily. So he printed the three lines in the palm, on the palm itself. So if you look at the palm, if you look at your palm, then you will see three lines. One is the mortal soul line, another is immortal soul line, and the third one is absolute soul line. So that God thought that man can remember the three souls. So since it is printed in everyone's palm, even the so-called gurus, the popular gurus, even they could not identify this one. So that means the effect of Maya is so much on them. So this matter, this matter was taught by the three lines in the on the palm. This matter was taught by Bhagavan in the ancient days, at the end of the Dwapara Yogam itself. But human being uh, could not know this one. So God not only taught with the mouth, but also he printed in the on the palm, but man could not grasp that one. And also what God did, so he created the form of lingam, and he established that one, and he put the three lines on the three white lines on the Ishvara lingam, making sure that there are three souls. There are three souls which are important souls. But after some time what happened, so as God said that dharmas become adharmas, that means righteousness will turn into unrighteousness because of the defection happens to the dharmas. In the same way, uh, whatever the matter God wanted to explain, that matter also turned in a different way, and people what they made. So they made the temples of Ishvara as a Shankara temple. The Shankara is a demigod who is wearing the snake on his neck, and all the Ishvara temples turned into Shankara temples, having inside that Shankara temples the Parvati, wife of Shankara, and they established Nandi, the bull, in front of the Shankara's temple. Like that, all the Ishvara temples turned into Shaivas worshipping places. Uh, Even the elderly people, what they thought, even though they forget, the matters on the Ishvara Lingam, at least human beings could know early morning when they look at the palm. So that way they thought, and they said that everybody should look at their palm in the morning and remember the three souls. So that when they look at their palm, they can at least think that, oh, everything, all the wisdom is in our palm itself, and Traita Theorem itself is in our palm itself. Like that, people may think. So that way, elderly people thought and put a uh, uh, put a condition to the people about the looking at the palm. So that means when they look at their palm, at least after some time or some bursts, a human being can think about himself, and he can come into the God's path. The Traita Theorem, what it says, the three lines in your palm and the three lines on the Ishvara Lingam, that is called Traitam. That is called Traitam. So Bhagavad Gita talks about the Traitam. Traitam talks about the three souls. They are Jivatma, Atma, and Paramatma. So everybody has to go through the Gita Parchayam. Gita Parchayam means introduction to Gita. Everybody has to understand that, because first everybody should read that one, because if there is a new person, we cannot directly, if there is a stranger, we cannot go directly face him and get introduce ourselves, and it's very hard about that stranger. So we don't know his mentality and what he does and all those things. Those are all unknown things. So in that case, we need a mediator. The mediator, based on the mediator, how he explains about the stranger and what are his characteristics and what is his behavior, conduct, everything the middleman or mediator explains. When he explains, based on his explanation to us, then we can come to a conclusion about that stranger, and then we start making friendship with him. That way the work becomes the easier task. So in the same way, in order to know the summary from the Bhagavad Gita, so to grasp the wisdom from that, we should read introduction to Gita. That we call it is a mediator or the middleman. So once we read the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, then we can understand the Traitatiram Bhagavad Gita in such a way that so there won't be any doubts at all. So the introduction to Gita will makes you understand about the what is Traitam, the doctrine of Traita, and then you can read the Bhagavad Gita well and understand the true notion of the Lord Krishna. So until now we completed the introduction to Gita. That is the that's what the important step. So before going into the chapters, first we need to know the introduction about the Bhagavad Gita. So that is what we did now. Now we completed the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. So on the next week we are going to start the Sankhya Yogam chapter, where Bhagavan started teaching the wisdom. That's what the 11th slokam from Sankhya Yogam. So if you have any doubts, please ask me, so I will let you know. If you don't have any doubts, we'll end the session. Do Mangala Prardhana. Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Mahaniya Prabodhatmane Sarvaloka Sharanyaya Sadhurupaya Mangalam. Prabodharpanam to everybody.